everyone. I'm Miss Simone. I'm an instructor with Science from Scientists in our California office.
Hi, I'm Miss Esther. I'm also an instructor in our California office.
So Esther, I know you and I have been on some nature walks before, and I noticed that you're great at spotting things in the wild. I was wondering if you had any tips for me.
Oh, that's a great question. So when I'm outside, just like in the classroom, we tell people, you got to use not just your eyes, but also your ears. So when you're outside, some of the first clues that you can get about an animal, or especially birds, because birds are my specialty, being around, often you hear them long before you see them. You might hear them flying, you might hear them calling.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping your ears as tuned as your eyes when you're out on a nature walk will sometimes give you clues about where to turn your head to find an animal. Using your ears is a really important part of being a good nature scientist.
I love that. So using more of my other senses rather than just my eyes to try and spot things. And
Yeah.
I live in the middle of a city. Do you think I can still find interesting things in a really urban area?
Definitely. So there are a lot of animals that have moved into cities as sort of a new habitat that wasn't available before, and there's actually quite a lot of it around these days. You got your normal city species you might have seen before. Maybe you've seen raccoons, maybe you've seen pigeons. Um, so those are sort of what we think of when we think of animals that live very well in cities. But there are also things like peregrine falcons who love to eat pigeons and like to nest in high places. So skyscrapers are perfect for them. So you can find them nesting on really tall buildings on the edge and taking out pigeons. So keep your eyes peeled for a bird high in the air. They hunt way up high and they dive really, really fast. They're some of the fastest animals on earth to hit those pigeons in midair. So it's actually really exciting when you see them. You also might see red-tailed hawks. They're really great at eating squirrels, which are a thing that you see a lot in cities. And then there are lots of smaller animals that you might find as well. There are lots of bees and insects of all sorts that you can find in cities if you just keep your eyes peeled. And also things that eat insects, like here in California, you might find a western fence lizard pretty much in any neighborhood that you're in. Look in sunny spots on warm rocks and you'll probably spot one. So lizards and even frogs sometimes love city parks. So just keep your eyes and ears peeled. You'll hear things and see things, even in a city.
Definitely. I'm very excited to keep my eyes and ears open. And I know you mentioned birds. I know you happen to love birds, know a lot about birds, and I happen to have been with you when we've seen an injured bird. I know a lot of students and others ask you, if I see a bird, what should I do? What are some things that you might say to somebody?
Yeah, so often people that see birds that look a little out of it, they've probably run into a window. Birds have trouble sometimes spotting window glass. And so they might have hit the window hard enough to sort of knock themselves a little bit silly. So often the best thing to do in that circumstance is sort of let the bird sit still and quiet until its brain stops being scrambled, and then it'll fly away on its own. So often leaving them alone is the best case. You can sort of keep your eye on them. If they seem still distressed after several hours, you can call your local animal control. They have specialists that are trained in treating birds. The normal person isn't going to be able to do much for an injured bird. Their bodies are different than our bodies. And so what we would treat our own injuries with may or may not help them. So I would suggest contacting the experts if it doesn't seem to get itself sorted after a few hours. The other danger is, when you touch an animal that's sick or injured, it's quite possible that either it hurts you or it passes on the illness to you. So you probably don't want to touch it yourselves. The only exception is if you see a baby bird and you see the nest, you can take the baby bird and put it back in the nest and mom won't care. She'll still come back and take care of that baby. So that's the one exception to my leave the bird alone rule.
Got it. So generally a good rule of thumb, don't touch wild animals. Don't try and feed wild animals that you see. Got it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good rule.
And in addition to having my eyes and my ears, which I'd bring with me naturally, are there any other tools you might recommend I bring on a nature walk with me?
Sure, absolutely. So if you happen to have them, I love binoculars, because even when things are far away, you can get a better view through binoculars. Is what they're for. So binoculars, or if your parents have a spotting scope. Something like that can be a great tool, not necessary, but if you happen to have them, they're awesome for sort of getting a better view of distant things, like birds who are in the top of a tree. They're not going to come down and see you necessarily, so it's nice to have something to enhance your vision. Another thing I like to bring is a guide for my area. This one happens to be for California, but one of the things that you can do is find a guide for whatever you're most interested in. If you're interested in birds, there are bird guides. If you're interested in trees and shrubs, there are guides for that too. If you're a herpetologist, someone who likes reptiles, there are guides for that. So whatever you're interested in or looking at or trying to figure out more about, these things are built to sort of be small. You can put them in your backpack and help you identify things out in nature. If you don't want to carry any of those because they're all too big, there are lots of apps that'll help you too. One of the ones you might like is iNaturalist. So you can download it on your phone and then take a picture of what you're interested in. And iNaturalist will suggest what that animal or plant might be. They won't always get it right, but it's something to help you get a place to start. So there are lots of tools. And it's nice now in sort of modern days, you don't have to have the old-fashioned field guide. You have your phone, you can download a field guide, and it's much lighter, so that's awesome.
Great tips. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I can't wait for our next nature walk together so we can learn and observe a lot more about the world around us.
Awesome, I can't wait either.